So if you have osteoporosis or osteopenia and you're looking for the best exercise tool for building muscle and for building bone, stick around because I'm going to go through and show you some excerpts of an interview that I did with Dr. John Jaquish. And I did this interview discussing really OsteoStrong and the equipment behind that with osteogenic loading, and this sort of side conversation about his bar called the X3 bar. And X3 system kind of came up. And I think it's really relevant for people that are interested in having a single device that can have the biggest impact on both muscle and bone, something that they can have in their home. So stick around. We're going to go through and I'm going to show you his comments on this, how he came up with the idea, what it involves, and then I'll tell you about my experience with it and how I have seen it work in my own life and who I recommend it for at the end. And stick around because we have a discount code at the end that I'm going to mention. So I'll see you at the end. All right, so if you listen to the video and watch the video on OsteoStrong and osteogenic loading with John Jaquish, you probably heard him say that in order to build bone, you need to generate over 4 multiples of your body weight. That's a lot of poundage, no matter how light you are. It's still a lot. And so I think it's really interesting when we start talking about studies that show that weightlifting has an impact, a study that shows that impact training, letting go from a pull-up bar and hitting the ground has an impact. And when you think about how many multiples of body weight you're generating with that, it's not very much. So I think that there is an in-between where we are finding ways to improve muscle mass and bone health. Potentially, if you don't have access to something like OsteoStrong and osteogenic loading, or just choose not to use it, there are other tools out there. The question is what are the best tools? And what do you have access to? What can you have in your home? What's safe to use? And so I want to show you this excerpt of the interview that I did with Dr. Jaquish because he talks about how he came up with the idea of the X3 bar. And actually, it came out of the creation of osteogenic loading and OsteoStrong. And when he started looking at this thing called variable resistance training, he realized that, hey, there's a role here for a product that could actually really improve muscle mass. And so I'm going to play this for you. It's about 12 minutes long. So listen to this, and then I'll talk about kind of my takeaways from this section. I want to switch to muscle because clearly sarcopenia or loss of muscle is associated strongly with loss of bone mass. And you could argue chicken or the egg, and maybe you have a thought on chicken or the egg, but you have a solution to muscle too. So why don't you walk me through, thoughts on variable resistance, what X3 is, why it's better than what I'm currently telling people to do fraudulently, apparently.
Well, before we really understood variable resistance, weightlifting was great. But now that we understand it scientifically, now that there's probably 20 really good studies on it, now I'd say weightlifting as a recommendation is just kind of inappropriate for any age. Like if it's inappropriate for teenagers, it's inappropriate for adults, and it's really inappropriate for older people. So I'm lucky enough to where I was the first person to see this. Not the variable resistance had been attempted and there had been some studies recorded, but I saw something that no one else saw, which was in the first clinical trial, which was done in the Stratford Village Surgery in East London. So I'm there observing the study. Like I wasn't the principal investigator. There would be a conflict of interest there. So the principal investigator worked for the National Health Services of the British government. And so we were going through this process, and I was basically just there to make sure they were using the device correctly and assisting with authoring of the methods section. So, the investigator would know exactly what was happening with the machine, because that individual didn't necessarily understand the engineering of the machine. So being there and being part of that, I got the chance to talk to the physicians at this hospital. And the physicians at the hospital, they were all using it. They weren't test subjects in the study, but they were using it when it wasn't being used for the study, and they were seeing their bone density go up because they could write their own prescriptions without NHS approval for DEXA scans. So they'd be doing a DEXA scan every couple of months, and they watched their bone density going up, and they were just blown away. And then they said to me, how does this compare to average loading data with weightlifting? And I said, well, this is far higher. We have people using 6, 7, 8 times their body weight, postmenopausal females, loading 7, 8 times their body weight through their hip joint. And of course, the minimum dose response is 4.2 multiples body weight. So we know that 6 or 7 is going to have a massive effect. And so, but they really wanted the comparison. And I said, that data is out there and I will get it for you. So the American College of Sports Medicine had a position paper on sort of average loading events that they extracted from the NAINS database. So one of the largest databases of physical activity, and we'll call it sort of fitness and self healthcare, fitness care, people engage in. And so it's really the only serious evergreen database of fitness information. And so when they looked at this database, they determined that beginners typically start using 1.3 multiples of body weight when they engage in lower body exercises. And advanced, now keep in mind, this is all based on averages. So the fact that, one guy can squat 3 times his body weight is irrelevant because we're looking at the entire exercising population.
Right.
So advanced athletes, they determined, used 1.5 times their body weight, which really meant weightlifting would never, ever do anything relevant for bone density. Now, there had been some studies that I thought were questionable only because the methods weren't described. And there are also some high impact studies where people would jump off of boxes. Right. To get to 4.2 multiples body weight, you have to jump off of something that is higher than 2 feet tall. So average chair. But by the time somebody's got low bone density, you really want to tell them to jump off a chair? No, you really don't.
No.
Right. So when I realized this, it helped me learn a little bit more about what we were doing with human bone and gave me a lot more confidence and excitement that we were really on a tremendous path for helping billions of people. However, it also proved to me that weightlifting is stupid because based on the comparison
here too.
Oh yeah, I got a copy just in case you didn't find the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, weightlifting is a waste of time. I wrote that book based on my experiences in London because what I realized is if you're 7 times stronger here than you are here, why would you ever lift a weight? It doesn't make any sense. Like you have so much more capacity in one position, in basically the most linear position with bone alignment compared to the weaker range of motion. That it's just weightlifting it just made no sense at all. I mean, I just kind of looked at the data, and I thought about writing a book called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time, which I obviously did. But, I'm sitting here going, I can't just tell people that. I gotta have a device that shows it.
Right.
And so I created the world's most powerful variable resistance device, and it's called X3.
Okay, so what are my takeaways from this? Well, clearly there is a way to leverage the same technology that osteogenic loading has leveraged to impact bones and potentially even muscle, but more from a muscle side. And so when he's talking about how much load he can impact through his X3 system and how the variable resistance bands can get up to and over 600 pounds, you can see that, even if for me, I'm a little under 200 pounds, I could actually generate, if I'm strong enough to use the elite band, I could generate 600 pounds, which is 3 multiples of body weight. So, in a position of protection guarding, I'm going to be able to load my bones with really kind of up to 3 X my body weight, which is still under the 4 that the research for osteogenic loading would say that you need to really provoke bone mineralization, but definitely more than you would get otherwise. So for example, even just with bench press, even if I'm feeling strong and at my biggest numbers in training, I've been at, 225 pounds, which is, whatever, 1.2, 1.3 multiples of my body weight. So then, with the X3 bar, if I can get out to here, at 600 pounds, and again, that's a big if, but that's much, much more because I can't get 600 pounds up off my chest. I would crush my chest and die. So I think there's a potential here where this thing could be significantly greater, or have a significantly greater impact rather than weightlifting alone. So when you consider what I generally will tell people they need to look at when it comes to activities, because people want to do all kinds of different stuff. And so I usually say, look, there's 3 categories that we need to fulfill in order to have an impact on bone. Number 1, we need to have muscle contraction on bone. And that's pretty much everything, because nothing really happens that you do yourself that doesn't involve muscle contraction. But number 2, we need to have gravity doing something. And this is where activities like swimming and cycling, because gravity is doing something, but it's you're really focusing more on the muscle impact, not so much on the gravity impact, unless you're cycling up a steep hill. And then impact. So the third component is impact. So is there a component of high impact of your body hitting something that's going to send that shock and vibration through your bone? When you put all 3 together, then you're going to have a bigger impact on bone metabolism, and you're going to cause bones to improve in bone quality and quantity faster. So then when you take that concept and you apply something like osteogenic loading, well, you are kind of impacting because you're kind of bracing for impact. You don't get that sudden jolt, but you're driving so much force through the bones that it's almost kind of simulating that. Also, you're in that position where you can generate multiples of body weight, particularly through your lower extremity, because you're in a position of such incredible strength. So you're generating more muscle forces than you would otherwise. And that sort of takes gravity out of the equation because those forces are so much greater. So then how does X3 play in there? So X3, or variable resistance band training, again, it's kind of like osteogenic loading in that you're using the body in the position of maximum force, and you're going to generate forces so much more than you could otherwise. So while there's no impact when you're doing resistance band training, the muscle force is so much greater than you would do otherwise, you flip-flop that equation. So before I show you the actual system itself, which I have here, and talk to you about my experience with it, let me just let Dr. Jaquish walk you through kind of what the X3 bar is made out of and how he came up with the design itself.
And that was the moment where I thought, okay, I got it. I know exactly what I need to do. I need to get some rubber bands that are so powerful. No one's ever seen anything like it. You can probably see them right over my shoulder, hanging out of the wine barrel.
Yeah, I should have hung mine up right here.
Nice. Yeah, and all I needed was an Olympic bar with rotation like this, and then a platform to stand on so the bands can move freely under someone's feet.
Yeah.
And we can put tremendous forces through the body. Like when I do a chest press, I'm dealing with 550 pounds at the top, 300 pounds in the middle, and about 130 pounds at the bottom. And then I go to fatigue in a diminishing range. So first I go to fatigue in the more powerful range. I mean, I'm going full range each repetition, right, but all of a sudden I can't get to that most powerful range. Then I'm doing half repetitions, and then the final repetitions is very shallow, but I'm fatiguing every cell in the musculature, which is something you can absolutely positively never do with a weight.
Yeah. And you do same as OsteoStrong, same concept, 1 set, 2 fatigue, true fatigue is all you need.
Like every adaptive response, 1 stimulus,
yeah.
1 stimulus of the appropriate level.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that. If you're liking this content and you think other people would like it too, please do me a favor and share this with them. Click the subscribe and like buttons, because those buttons let YouTube know that this is good content and that they should show this to other people looking for answers to their bone health questions and helping them on their journey. If you want to learn more about other tips and tricks that you can do on your own or what we do in our practice, look for the link for our free masterclass, a really popular way. We have over 1,000 people now signing up for each of our master classes. So look for that link in the description below. Space is limited, but we run it about every 2 weeks. So get registered for that, and you can hear me talk about, again, things that you can do on your own, a little bit about what we do and how you could potentially work with us. If you want to just skip that and talk to our team, look for the link up here. Click that. You can get scheduled with one of our team members. And lastly, if you haven't read our book yet, you should download our free ebook. Link for that is in the description below, or you can buy it from Amazon. All right, so what does the X3 system look like? Well, I have no financial interest in this, so this is not a sales pitch. I just want you to see it. So it comes with 4 bands, at least the system that I bought did, and this is the heaviest of the band. And you can see they're very, very heavy, and I don't know what the actual force that this one generates is, but I can't actually press this one. The Elite that I mentioned that goes up to 600 pounds is an orange one that's bigger than this. So it's bands that are very well made. I've had this system for 3 years, I think, and it still looks, it looks like I've used it, but there's no wear and tear to notice. And just in case you're wondering if you have to be able to lift heavy weights, it comes with really light bands too. And this is, what I'm using in my recovery and my shoulder surgery for overhead press and that kind of stuff. And then there's 2 other kind of mid levels here. And then of course the Elite is the 5th that doesn't come in the original set. All right, and then there's the bar itself. So as he described and showed, this is a bar that rotates, so the bands are, not fixed to the bar itself. And the bar is not particularly heavy, and it's comfortable. I don't have any issues with it. It's held up really well, no issues. And then lastly, the foot plate that he mentioned looks like this, and it has an area for the bands. I think you can see that right there. Has an area for the bands to run underneath, and definitely for heavier exercises, you need to use the foot plate. When I travel, I don't take the foot plate with me because it's a little bit, especially if I'm doing air travel, I don't want to take it with me. And you can actually just stand on the band. It's not going to glide, so you're going to be limited a little bit, but I will travel with just the bar and the bands. So then what's my experience with the X3 system? I use it, like I said, when I travel. I have it in my gym at home. If I don't have very long, I will use it. I haven't been able to use it for several months because of a shoulder injury, because the amount of force that it generates in full extension is actually more than my shoulder can handle. I'm almost back to the point where I can use it again, and I'm looking forward to actually testing Dr. Jakewish's theory, which is that I'm inhibiting my development by not just committing to using it. So I'm gonna actually do that for a while once I'm able to, and I'm not quite there yet. Other things that I like about this from a bone health perspective is that if you have the power to use it, I think that it really could help to build muscle quickly. And I know that a lot of people are in a big time crunch, and time is a very sensitive thing, and they don't have the ability to do the volume that a traditional weight training setup would require, and I think there's a time-saving thing. I think you certainly can do it. You do have to have enough strength to actually generate power through it. So it's not for everybody, but it's for people that are relatively fit. I think this is an interesting way to really push to the next level. Cost, I think if you compare it to a full system, like if you compare it to like an exercise system, it's cheap. If you compare it to other bands that are they're probably likely very inferior, then it's going to be expensive. You can go on their website and you can see how much the bar is. I don't actually know off the top of my head. We do have a code though. So if you look in the description below, you can see a code, and I think it's for $50 off. So you get for a little bit cheaper. And again, I have no financial interest here whatsoever. But the other thing is I just like it because it's simple. And it's something that, if you don't have 10 minutes, then you need to reevaluate your priorities. So for somebody that says, man, I just hate lifting weights, and they just want to have something to do, I think it's something that's a really great way. Could be better than lifting weights. Dr. Jakewish certainly thinks so. And there's some controversy out there about it, but I think that it is a tool that I'm going to explore more. I see more and more advanced weightlifters and bodybuilders using variable resistance. It doesn't look quite like this. It looks more like you see guys, benching or doing squats, and they'll have chains, and as they get off the ground, there more and more of the chain will be lifted off of the ground. And so it gets heavier and heavier. So I think this idea of variable resistance is absolutely real. The literature does support it. And Dr. Jaquish on his website, which we'll link to in the description, has some good studies that show the benefit and the impact of variable resistance training. So it's definitely real. Whether or not this is right for you, you probably should talk to somebody who knows your unique circumstances. For our patients, they're already in a training program, and I don't think many of them are using this at this point. Maybe something that we'll start incorporating more. But I wanted to let you guys know about it because it is something that is out there. It doesn't take a lot of space, and once you have it, it is absolutely free to use. So I hope you enjoyed that. Again, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications. Share this with people. That tells YouTube that this is good content and that they should tell other people that are looking for bone health answers about this. If you want to sign up for our masterclass, again, link in the description below. You want to talk to our team, sign up right here, and you can talk to one of our team members about our different programs. And if you haven't read the book yet, please download the book, buy it from Amazon, and if you enjoy it, a review would mean so much to me. So thank you so much, and we will see you in the next video.